All right, hey, it's been a while since I've streamed anything, and I've been working on some new Lego piece generators, geometry node setups, and so I thought I'd show those real quick. Maybe talk a little bit how I've been thinking about building them, and so hopefully you can get some inspiration um, and maybe get some ideas for how you can do something similar. Also, I wanted to let everyone know that these nodes that I'm showing tonight are available on my Gumroad page for free. So links in the description already. If you want to jump over there and download those, you can do that. There's a lot of free assets on my Gumroad page. You can check those out, and of course, if you want to leave a tip on any of the free ones, that's more than appreciated for sure. But you don't have to if you are not able to do that. So be sure to check out some of the things I've got over there. And that I put up there for you to use. So let's get into this. Uh, hey, everyone who's jumping on here. Um, oh, I'm glad you like the neon setup. Yeah, that was a fun one. I really enjoyed putting that one together. I think I need to revisit it now that there's some new features coming out. I think it could be done even better. And there's been some people who've made some really cool, um, much better implementations than I've done out there. So yeah, yeah, I did enjoy that one. But for one reason or another, I was thinking about Legos the other day, um, and started modeling individual Lego pieces. And then after I created 5 or 6 blocks, I was just like, this really seems like something be great for geometry nodes. So the first one that I did was this uh, simple classic Lego block um, generator here. Let me jump over to let's do this. I'm gonna expand this. So now you can see my geometry nodes panel here. Make that a little bigger. Okay, so it's got some really simple setup settings. This in place here. All right, so you can adjust how many the little studs here are in the X direction here. You can expand these like this. You can expand or contract the Y. And then underneath, depending on how many studs you've chosen, it gets the correct bottom type here as well. Because with these pieces, when you have a 2x1 like this, you get this single peg. But if you go to a 2x2, you get this tube peg in the bottom. So as you get bigger than that, you keep these tubes going, and so that was kind of a fun little thing to throw in there. So that's that. Next, you can turn on and off whether or not you have studs on the top. So if you want to make a plate rather than a brick, you can do that. But of course, plates aren't usually these full height pieces. They're usually much flatter. So you can actually use this option here to drop this down to plate sized, and do that if you so desire. Okay, so then the last couple of things here, we've got the resolution of the studs. So if you want these to be more higher resolution, you can do that. And then what height you want one of these studs to be. I found a document online. It was a BYU design student paper about Lego bricks, and how Lego bricks use a unit system in their design, and that learning that and seeing how that worked really made doing the geometry nodes part of it a lot easier. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Uh, yeah, so it's here, designreview.byu.edu/collections/the Lego brick. But this talks about Legos and their design. But once you scroll down here, you start getting this information about these Lego units. Um, yeah, I could put my initials on there, but I figure um, the Boolean operation to make that work. Uh, you'll see what I'm doing here in a second. If I just join the geometries, that would work pretty well. Um, but I've been trying to design these um, in such a way that they can be turned into real meshes and still work pretty well. So once I had this idea here, and that the stud height is actually one Lego unit tall, um, then I use that idea that this stud height is one Lego unit. So if I want the studs to be 0.1 meters, which is that's a pretty big Lego, um, you would just set that here. But of course, if you wanted the studs to be a meter tall, um, you know, they're going to be huge. And in this case, the actual height of that is 1.6 millimeters. So you can put in 0.0016, and that will take it down to the actual size of a Lego brick. If you were wanting to put that in a scene or something. But for our purposes here, I'm going to leave this at 0.1, um, just to make it simple. It's what I've kind of been leaving these at, just for reference. So that was my first idea, was this one brick that I could make now pretty much any of the standard bricks or plates um, pretty easily. But, why stop there? Um, so so what I figured next was, well, how about uh, how about something easy? So I did the like the little Technic axles, and then you can set how many studs. Like if you lined this up with I might have broken this one. No, no. Yeah, the length is off. I gotta fix that. Anyway, um, but yeah, you'd be able to extend this or shrink this, depending on what you need. That's actually, huh. I just revamped this node, so I must have screwed up the length. I'll have to fix that. And of course, if I'm going to do that, I'm also going to need Technic bricks. So here's this one. It uses the same ideas as this first piece we looked at, but it also adds in the through holes here and the tubes underneath, and you can expand this to the length you want, change the resolution, change the stud height, just like the others. So next, little this Technic beam object. Again, similar to the last one. You can say how many holes you want in there and the stud height. Of course, you know, once I get going on these, um, uh, I kind of went overboard. So next, I went to this slope piece generator. You can change the width, and of course, when it's 1, you don't get anything on the inside, but then you start getting those underneath. And what's real nice on these is they actually are um, lined up really nicely with the inside slope. You can change the height, and you can change the length. So you can bring this out like this, and make all sorts of different sloped pieces. Um, my one of my sons was saying, oh, so he was looking at what I was doing here, and he's like, "Oh, here, you should do one of these pieces." So he brings me an arch piece out of his pile of Legos, and so we're clear here. This son is 23 years old, so you know. Anyhow, um, so brings me this piece, and so sure enough, for the arches, you can have whatever width you want here, and whatever height you want. You can change the resolution of the arch, so if you want that to be a much higher resolution across there, you can. And then, of course, again, the stud height. I was trying to standardize on that so it can be easily worked through. Probably the one that has given me the most trouble has been this one. This is the reverse or inverted slope brick, which has these pegs on the top of the flat part, and then these pegs here on the sloped part. So I needed to create this. I needed to create this sloped part, and then I needed to cut off these pegs so that they'd be in the right spots. And then, of course, we can adjust. Oh, you don't want to go too far there. How so the top length is how many studs are across the top, and then the base length is how many stud lengths are on this flat part. So you can work that how you want it there. That, and of course, if you need to make that taller, uh-oh, looks like my math was off a little bit there. I got to fix that once it gets a little too tall. Guess that only works up to that height. Always nice when you find little errors, but that's fine. And of course, you can also add to the width of this, so you can make a lot of very specific Legos with those. So those are the general pieces that I've done so far. The next one was pretty easy. This is just a simple base plate. Let's give it an X and a Y and a stud height. And you can have some nice base plates there. And then finally, I did this one, which is what I call the cutout base plate generator. There's a lot of base plates that have certain parts of the studs missing. So, so if I take this one up to say 48 by 48, what I can do on this one is I can add, say, an extra cube here. And let's see, that's called cube.001. So here I'll put in cube.001 as the cutout object. And then this tolerance says basically how far the studs are away from any of the faces on my cutout object. So here I can very easily remove studs from this in any shape that I want. Now, of course, this if I hide this, you'll see there I've got a base plate with some cutouts on it. So your options here become pretty open. Now, these node trees can get kind of heavy. And one of the things I wanted to do, like I said before, was to make it so that if you applied the modifiers, you got a relatively decent mesh out of these, so that you could, if you're going to say, I'm going to need, um, say, 10 blocks like this, you're really not going to want to have 10 of these with 10 of these node trees. Because if I jump over to the geometry nodes, I mean, it's not huge. It's not like Arendelle huge, but it's decent enough, and it's got a few Boolean nodes in there. So it can take a little bit, especially once they get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you do like a 20 long brick or something, it's going to take some time it's going to slow it down. But if I take this one now and I go over here and I apply this modifier, I can click on this down arrow and click apply, or I can press Control A while hovering over this modifier. You'll see now, I'm going to go into here. All right. You'll see now that I've got a pretty decent mesh resultant from this. And so I tried to do that on as many of these as I could to get a decent mesh outputting from these. So like this one here, if I wanted to keep this and not have to have that not have to have this object around anymore, I could simply take this, apply the modifier, get rid of this object, and now I've got a pretty decent mesh going on there. So that was one of the things that I really wanted to do, was to make it so that if I knew I was going to have a 10-hole beam like this, I could just apply that, and now duplicating this out 10 times is really a light operation, because these are just simple meshes and not dozens of geometry nodes building this up. This one isn't horrible, and I've tried as well. If you go and you download this and you check these out, I've tried to, as much as possible, join together, like put frames around some of the groups of nodes to try to give you an idea of what's happening where. So, like these beam nodes, we see here we have the outer shell, which is which basically I took a rectangle, this quadrilateral curve, did a curve fillet along the edges, or fillet, however you pronounce that correctly. I whatever. Um, that gets the curve around the end, and then um, I use another rectangle to actually use as my profile curve to wrap around this, and that created the outer shell of this node. Um, if we look from the top, we see that there's a bar that runs down through the middle. That's this. And then because these inner parts get a bunch of stuff happens at these points, I create the points for all of these, this line of points, just using a mesh line with a little bit of math to pick up the start and end points. And then here I use those points first to create a cylinder, a solid cylinder. And then I union that with the shell and that inner bar. Then I create a new cylinder that's a little bit smaller here on each of those points, and I subtract it from that. And then finally, I do a pair of cylinders which create these little end cutouts that you see, and then applies that to each one, and then uses those in this difference as well, and that gets cut out. Um, and then here at the end, I do the scaling for the stud height at the end. So that's basically the idea that I had with a lot of these was to look at the major shapes and then start unioning pieces together as I could, and then and trying to make sure things line up well so that how did I instance the cylinders? Okay, here let's do this. Let's go like this. Go into there. All right. We'll do a new node tree here. And let's do, first we want a cube. So we'll do a mesh primitive cube like this, and we'll do, I don't know, we'll do a combined vector. And, we can plug this in here. And so now we can, do this. So next, we want to instance the cylinders. Now, are you asking the cylinders on the cylinders that go through the middle here, or the cylinders or the studs on top? Which the Boolean ones? Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So let's so the first thing we need to do is we need to make some points to put the cylinders on. So we can do that either with a curve line or a mesh line. That's completely up to you. I'll just use a mesh line. And I'm going to do a join geometry here so I can see them both at the same time. Now my start location we'll leave the X and the Y both at 0, but then we'll we want the I'm sorry, the Y and the Z will be at 1. No, those will be at 0. Those will be at 0. Those will be at 0. And then that's not what I want. Wireframe. So now we can bring endpoints. I want to use endpoints. I don't want to use offset. That's what I was messing up there. So the basic idea here, we actually want this line to be, within this cube so that we can have the points inside here. And right now there's 10 points. That's probably too many. We'll maybe drop this to 4 for our example here. Drive the line. Yeah. If I was doing this for real, I would use this X value. Well, I could do this. I could say the X value utilities math, do this, divide by a -2, and then X value here, and just divide this one by 2. And now that line is going to be exactly the same length as my cube, because I've taken half the length of the X and moved it in the negative direction, and half the length of the X and moved it in the positive direction. And of course, I would like this to be maybe a little bit narrower than the cube. So, I could just do like, I don't know, subtract 2 or something. Now subtract 1. So now it's a little shorter. Really, there's a ton of different ways you could accomplish that. So once I have some points now to instance this on, I would simply come in here. I would do an instance on points. I would create my cylinder. And I'm going to drop that here. Now, of course, these are too big. So we'll bring the radius down. That looks good for now. Is there a way to know how many cylinders to instance depending on the scale? Well, it depends on what you want to do, because if we're saying that X is, say, 5, and we're subtracting 1, so the distance from here to here is 4, we could say like, oh, well, we want these to be, I don't know, if the distance between these is 1, we want these to be half that. So you could take this 4 value here, plug it into the radius, and divide that by how do we want to do that. I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to get at, I guess. Are you wanting to say how many to put in there? Um, uh, I mean, you could do. I mean, yeah, you could do that. You could do an accumulated field. Like for this, uh, specifically for this example, I know that I want 4. If I wanted more, I could, of course, plug in an input here like this. And now I can control how many are getting instanced here. And then I could do another one that is, controlling the radius as well. And so I could, have full control. If you want to figure that out mathematically by the x divided by the count. So if I have the x minus 1 here, and I divide that by my count of tubes that I want, and then I'd like maybe divide that by 2. Now, it's gonna scale those appropriately, somewhat appropriately, I guess. Anyhow, that's not what I'm trying to get at. So I want these to go through the side, so I would simply do like a X rotation of 90 degrees here, like this. Okay, so at this point, we've got the cube and we've got our cylinders, and then I would simply drop in my mesh Boolean node in difference mode, like so. So that's the idea. And then, like I did down there, like I did on this one, you see there's some more detail here. I can simply reuse these points on another instance. And then whatever I instance on this, like if I did, I don't know, we could do like a icosphere or something like that and drop that in and bring down the radius. So now those are in there. Of course, if I, of course, it's all whatever you want at this point. So yeah, that's the idea, the basic idea behind it. So really, with all of these, that's kind of the thought process behind doing these. Now, the if you're wanting to do something, if you're wanting to do like a pile of Legos with like a physics simulation or something, then I would suggest um, don't use the geometry nodes. Like apply the geometry nodes before you use them to do a simulation, because then they'll have to, you know, there's a lot to that that you probably don't want to do. Uh, but I mean, you can have some fun with that. You know, drop a bunch of these into a pile and just get a very easy, set dressing or something of a pile of Legos sitting behind a Lego model. Now, if you are, when I was first doing this, the thought was, well, I could have these generators, because these generators can build hundreds of different sizes of bricks, all out of these geometry nodes. But then I was thinking, oh, well, I could model up a bunch of other pieces and have them here. Well, um, that's kind of, I mean, it certainly is not a bad idea. Um, but you can also use, there's resources out online. Let's look at Rebrickable. And Rebrickable has a library of parts. And so if there are specialty parts that maybe don't fit the idea of a generator real well, like like the minifigs, or special angled blocks, or you know like this, yeah, some of these, oh, what are those, they go with all like the specialty pieces and such, like this vehicle base. You're not going to want to model that just because you want that one piece. But what you can do is, off of Rebrickable, there is a link to this Ldraw for that file. If you click on Ldraw, it will take you to the Ldraw website. And from here, if they have the part actually in the database, let me go to one that's maybe a bit more likely to be available. Let's go. This one. Okay, so if I want this one, click here, and then it gives me a link to this DAT file. I'll go ahead and download this DAT file. And then if you do a web search for Ldraw to Blender, you will get this GitHub link for a Blender plugin for importing Ldraw file format Lego models. There's some instructions here on how to get this set up. It's pretty simple. So once you install this plugin, you can come over here and you can, you gotta enable it. So I'm gonna install it here. Downloads. Import there. Now you've got to put in the path to your where you put the library file. So I think mine is in C /Ldraw /Ldraw, if I remember correctly. Now, what I've done, what I've discovered is, if you use files from Ldraw, you can, they'll match up with my generators if whatever you use for the stud height here. So if I use 0.1 here, if I use a quarter of that for my scale on the Ldraw, it will work. So if I put in 0.025, now it rounds up to 3, but it actually is 0.025. And I don't want it environment. I don't want it to position the camera. I don't want it to bevel the edges. I don't want to import cameras. And I don't want it to put it on a ground plane. So I'll do that. Then I will go to my downloads and what file was this? 6233. 6233. And so there's that file. There's that model. And if we come here, we should see that will line up really nicely with the generator files. So you can go ahead and import and use any of these specialty files from Ldraw, and you don't necessarily have to model those yourself, because I'm not going to model every single Lego piece, especially since other people have already done it, and made those available. But I didn't want to have to go in and download all of these standard bricks every single time, or keep a separate library of separate bricks when, all I wanted to do here was go like, oh, I need a 4x3, I need a 4x4, I need a 4x8, like, and then just grab these. If you don't have the modifier tools installed, the plugin, it comes with Blender. I would really suggest you activate that one. It is just called, if you just search modifier, it's the only one here, modifier tools. It gives you these nice buttons here where you can delete all the modifiers on something. You can toggle them all on and off really nicely. You can say whether or not those modifiers are going to be shown in the viewport. But then the nice one is if you've got multiple selected, that's the thing, these all work on multiple selections. If I have these all selected and say apply all, that has now applied the modifiers on all three of these. So now these are static pieces that I can use in my model, quick and easy, whatever I want to do there. So one last idea that I had as I was looking at doing doing this cutout one was, what if I took this, and so now I've got this like here. If I were to take, say, this area and subdivide that a couple of times, and then I go into sculpting mode, I could go ahead, mask this out, and then I'll just invert mask. And now I could do some terrain style base plates, and of course, if I wanted to, to remesh this thing, I could do that or use Dynatopo. If you do this, you're going to want to make sure you've got front faces only. I didn't turn that on beforehand, so I'm suffering the consequences there for sure. Do this maybe. Here we go. Front. Where are you? Front faces only. There you are. But yeah, now of course, the sky's the limit on the type of terrain base plate you could build. So yeah, I mean you can really do whatever you're wanting to do, and for the most part, I would say that these pieces look they look pretty decent once you go into rendered mode. Um, I've been pretty happy with them so far. I haven't done a big model with them yet. I really need to take my time and so yeah. Of course, at this point, the sky really is the limit. Your imagination is the limit on what you could do with this kind of thing. But like I said, the generators are free. Go check them out on my Gumroad page. Links down in the description. Um, there's also a link to my main Gumroad page. So for sure, check out some of the other resources I've got there. Um, some geometry node stuff. Let me see here. So yeah, I've got the building blocks, generators. Got some flooring generators, a staircase generator, which actually will help you build stairs that are like realistic as far as the uh, kind of the standards for building stairs. I tried to do a little research on that, and those work out pretty well. Um, I've got a few models here that you can pick up. Uh, most of them are free, so have fun, download them if you like them. If you feel like you're getting some good use out of them and you want to come back um, and and buy them for free again, but then leave me a little tip. That is completely up to you. I've also got this pack, which I've got a price on this one because it did take quite a while to model these out. but these are all curve profiles. There's almost 200 curve profiles for things like moldings and crown moldings and railings and all that kind of stuff. Some other models there, nice USB microphone. Here's a pack of switches and plugs and things like that. It's just $2, but it's nice just to throw some detail if you're doing an ArchViz type render, and you just need some switches on the wall. They're I think they look pretty good. They've got a pretty decent realistic feel to them without being too terribly heavy model wise. Yeah, again, some tables, an IKEA display shelf, some IKEA bookshelves, a ceiling fan, uh, some TVs, some cube shelving. This photo frame pack is an interesting one. Uh, Again, it's a dollar, but it's got these pre-made photo frames in tons of different sizes so that you can very easily use the asset browser to throw pictures up on the wall of your scene. Like this layout here just took a few seconds to drop these pictures in from the asset browser. Now, of course, if I wanted to put a separate picture in each one, I'd have to go and separately do that. But just getting a quick layout of some stuff on the walls can really make the difference of a room looking like it is sterile and unlived in, or can look like, oh, hey, somebody actually lives in this space and they've got some pictures up on the wall and they've got different size frames, or they're laid out in some kind of arrangement. Maybe some of them are a little crooked, but that could add some interest to your scene. My block generator. I've got this coil on a curve generator that you can use. I've got these additional spirals. Those are free. I've got my mirror node, which replicates a lot of the built-in mirror modifier node, or the mirror modifier. So you can drop that into your node tree and get mirror operations quick and easy. Got some floor tile and wall tile generators, and then a circular instance array node as well. So yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff out here, and like I said, most of these are absolutely free. You can go check them out and download them. If you use them and you build something cool, I would love it if you post it on Twitter. Tag me at Johnny Gizmo. Um, you know, I love to see it when people use some of my resources to make cool stuff, especially if it's cooler than anything I could have made myself. Um, uh, a lot of times my renders look more like developer art than actual artist art. So it's nice to see when something I've put together is put to really cool use. All right. So that's about all I wanted to cover for this evening. I really wanted to get these Lego generators out there. I'm gonna be adding to them as I find little tweaks that I've got to do to them, like that inverted slope. I've got to fix why that's messing up once it gets too tall. Things like that. I'll be putting out new files out on the Gumroad as I do that, so that you'll get those updates. And then you should, if you've already downloaded it, you should get an email just saying, "Hey, this got updated," and you can jump back and log in and re-download the new file without having to go through the little purchase process, the free purchase process again. So yeah. Well, thanks for the folks who stopped by on this little stream. Um, hopefully I can hopefully I can get on stream a little more often than I have been. Things have been kind of busy around my place, so the time to take to record and edit videos has been kind of lacking lately, and I've just been um, doing some other things. So hopefully, uh, hopefully you can catch me on stream, and of course I will leave these streams available to watch later if you want to. So hope you enjoyed the stream tonight. As always, I hope it inspires you to make something awesome. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.